What is good, everybody, man? Welcome into the Bluebloods official podcast of FCS Football Central on SI. As y'all know, man, I'm your host, joined by my co-host, Coach Leroy Frederick, man, over at Alcorn State. And this was probably the most unplanned live stream we've ever had, man. I got home, Coach hit me up and was like, man, we got to get a SWAC preview out for YouTube. So hey, we're here. We got this thing up and running, what, 20 minutes, Coach? Thumbnail made,
Tops.
background made. Coach
Tops.
out Coach out on the town tonight. I see you in the lounge, man. Coach, how we feeling tonight, man?
Man, feeling good, man. Life be lifing. We both went through that. So I had to shoot down here to Florida to handle a life situation, but the show must go on. And here we are.
Hey, we're here, man. Shout out to our guy G in the chat. First comment, man. Shout out to our guy Wayne, always in the chat. Guys, this live stream is not going to be super long, but we wanted to get a SWAC preview in. I'll be headed to Jackson tonight when we get off the show. So, man, me and Coach ending the live. I'm grabbing my stuff. I'm getting in the car and I'm driving to Jackson tonight. So if y'all see me tomorrow, man, say what's up. Looking forward to it. My second SWAC championship in Jackson, man. I was there in 2022. Funny enough, Jackson State Southern, man, it was a blast. So I'm
We
looking
got to get
forward
that
to round.
change.
Yeah, I'm looking
We
forward
got
to
to get that
round.
change. We got to get that change. We got to make sure you do better.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I was planning on the trip to Loring, Coach. So we need that to
Me
come
too.
through. Yeah, we need that to come through for next year, man. But Coach, real quick
Ain't no
before
doubt.
we get into the real breakdown here, man. You've played both of these teams, and you play with these for multiple years. You know a lot of the players, man. Listen, the connections on each coaching staff for you are deep with Quinn and and Coach McNair on the other sideline. You've coached against Coach Graves. Just your initial breakdown, man. Are you? I think we both kind of knew Jackson was going to compete, man. But are you a little surprised to see the turnaround that Southern's made from where, Coach, we came on here after Nichols, and I don't care what Southern fans say, Coach, you heard the Southern fans. They were done. They were like, man, what are we doing here? The coaches need to do this. The coaches need to do that. They roll off a streak of wins here, get to the SWAC championship. With both of these teams, are you surprised they're in this position?
I really am. And not just because of where I'm employed at, but it's rare that a team can win one overtime game, let alone what Southern did to overcome all of this to get to the championship game. Did not see it coming, and for them to be here is truly, truly a remarkable uh, cash feat, however you want to put it, for Coach Graves and his staff. No doubt about it.
Man, I look back to where I was after the first Jackson game, right? And looking at that Southern team who, I mean, really and truly coached until the fourth quarter, really wasn't competing with Jackson. I mean, they put up some passing yards late, but Jackson dominated that game at the line of scrimmage. And to see them come where they were trailing PV late in that game, on top of that too, and I just look at that team and just I can't believe where they've come. And I do want to say this: if I'm gonna be critical of a coaching staff when they lose, I got to give them props when they win, Coach. I got to be fair.
Hmm.
I think Coach Graves and that staff deserve so much praise and admiration for what they did with this
Most
team
definitely.
because, Coach, I look at the talent coming into the preseason because this team was picked fourth in the West, fourth.
Most definitely. Most
I,
definitely.
I
Um, you can't again, and like you said, I'll take it back to the McNeese game. Watching that and was like, that fourth prediction might have been nice, you know, from the way they looked with that game to now. I mean, all you can do is take your hat off to them. Definitely.
and I'm gonna give some shout outs to the chat, man. Shout out to our guy DJB, man, co-pilot, my guy Outlaw, KT Dub, man. I'm looking forward to seeing my guy KT Dub at the game tomorrow. Paris, my goodness. I mean, man, hey, appreciate all y'all. Definitely like, share, become a member.
Definitely.
But I'll say this because JB makes a good point. Jackson was third, but I'm looking at it from my perspective because I don't think either one of us, coach, had qualms with Southern being fourth. Like I didn't see a lot of
No.
outrage out of Baton Rouge. Like, just to put in perspective, guys, when we dropped our SWAC predictions, when me and Timothy did it, me and Timothy both picked Jackson to win the East. So to me, I don't see Jackson in this position as a surprise. Now, if you're basing off of what the SWAC office did, yeah, I mean, to have the third and fourth place teams in each division be here in the SWAC championship is pretty remarkable. But for me personally, I had Jackson winning the East, so I'm not super surprised. But I'll say this. I had no idea Southern was going to be here. I would have picked PV above them. I would have put Alcorn above them. I mean, the list would then there probably would have been a Grambling above them. And going into the preseason, so I got to give Southern their credit, Coach. Top players to watch, man, and top matchups to watch. I've talked about this game on Perry's show, on some other shows I've been on, Coach. I think it starts at the line of scrimmage. And
Definitely.
if Southern can't run the football like they did last time, Coach, they finished last game with 23 rushing yards against Jackson in the first game and allowed Jackson Coach, if you remember, Southern was the first game Irv Mulligan was back for. They put up 201 and 3 touchdowns on the ground in the first game against Southern. If there's that disparity on the ground in this game, zero shot to win for Southern. I think, in my opinion, Coach, Southern has to hit the 150 mark to have a chance to win this game.
And I want to go back and then I'll touch on that. But I think we both said during the preseason that the hype train for the East was just that. We said it came down to really one game, which would have been the FAM JSU game. It pains me to say that, but we said it. And then we were also saying how was PV being disrespected, not being named the preseason favorite for the West. So we did say it, so we can stand on that. That's what we do. We do facts. And we're able to say when we're wrong. At least I am. So to fast forward to back what you just said, the game comes down to the trenches. And like you said, if they can't control that aspect of the game, it could be over by the third quarter. And again, Irv Mulligan, I'm sorry, the running back for JSU, if he's able to get off, it's going to be a long night. It's going to be a long night because Southern's strong point to me is the pass rush game. And if you never have to pass and your pass rush doesn't become a factor, and rushing for 201, that's going to null and void Southern's strong point on defense to me, which is the pass rush game.
Yeah, Coach, I was doing some research before this game. Southern, when they rush for, I believe it's 150 yards or more, is 7-0 this year. So that's where I put it. I think 150, and if you can extend it to 8-0, if you include Alabama A&M, where they got to 148. So 8-0 when you get to that 150 mark, that's the key, in my opinion. And also, too, like you said, their best asset defensively is getting after the passer. And the problem for me is, Coach, I look at what Jackson's done this year. The only team to hold them under 100 rushing yards this year in terms of FCS competition was Bama State. They've rushed for 140 yards or more against every single other FCS opponent. The only other opponent that held them under 100 was ULM too. Well, ULM held them to 59, but that's an FBS opponent. But Coach, I mean, if you let them, if Jackson rushes for another 200 yards, I just don't see. I don't even see a path to victory for Southern. So to me, I think defensively is even more important than them establishing the run. And then two, listen, Kelby Givens in that pass rush, Coach, you mentioned it, 0 sacks last game against Jackson. They didn't even know what Jacoby and Morgan's number was in that game. They didn't sniff them. You have to get to the quarterback, and if they don't generate enough tackles for loss and sacks, it's going to be a long day. Because, Coach, you've played Jacoby and Morgan for 2 years now. Last year, Alcorn did a good job of getting pressure on him, and you saw kind of what happened. Alcorn was able to take advantage. This year, not as much, and Jacoby had a much better game. I think you have to get 15 off his rhythm if you're going to have a chance. In last game, Jacoby and Morgan barely broke a sweat against Southern.
And it goes back to, the numbers that you're saying. They can't allow JSU. Something's got to give. JSU can't rush for 201 and Southern can't go for 150. I don't know if that's possible because to me, it's not enough time in the game for that to be possible. So when you're talking about it, again, the box game is going to be so important because at the end of the day, who's going to get who off track to where they have to throw the ball? We
Yeah.
all know about Southern's woes throwing the ball, and we also know about Southern's ability to get after the passer. So can they make JSU one dimensional? And nobody's been able to do that all year, except for, like you said, Bama State. But at the end of the day, they did just enough to get out of that. So again, what game plan is going to take over for which team?
Yeah. And also, too, in that Bama State game, I think they finished the game with 4 passing yards. Not going to get it done. It's just not. Now, listen, they had a 5th-string quarterback. I get it and everything. I'm not going to talk too much because you know this. You can't win with 4 passing yards. It's impossible unless you're Army in like the early 2000s. That might be the only team
Nebraska
that could have done it. Exactly. Triple option attacks. And then the other thing, too, the 2 key players for me, Coach, and I know, listen, I get it. And I understand, like, Coach, edge rushers are like the quarterbacks of the defense. Malachi Bailey and Kelby Givens are getting more credit than the defensive tackles for either of those teams. And I understand why Joshua Nobles is everyone's favorite talking point. Same with Phillip Webb. But, Coach, man, number 0, Jeremiah Williams, and number 4, True Thompson, to me, that's what separates Jackson's defense from some of the other defenses in the SWAC, because the other teams in the SWAC have good edge rushers, but they don't have those 2 guys on the interior together. And to me, that's what separates Jackson. And I think this will be a big test for Southern's O-line. Coach, if you remember, it was the PV game, second half, Coach Graves and the offensive staff made some adjustments. They moved some offensive linemen around. You saw improvement. After the Nichols game, they put in some freshmen. They put in some sophomore, some new faces, and that Southern offensive line has taken off to another level. This is the test, because I think listen, all these freshmen and sophomore have played well for Southern, but Coach, it's going to be a grown-up moment in the vet this weekend, because if you let 4 and 0 into the backfield, the game plan falls apart.
And that's again, as I hype up our show, that's what you get with our show. We talk the nuts and bolts of it. The pass rushers are all pretty. The linebackers 1 and 3 are all pretty, but they're only doing that because of those 2 inside guys. If you have that 0 tech and that 3 tech that can hold it and command a double team, which those guys from JSU do, it allows those other guys to be clean. Number 7, if we're being real about it, has made a lot of tackles where he was free to just go, because those guys are holding that double team and he's able to digest and seek out what's going on and make a play before they can come off to get to him. So, those guys don't get enough credit because nobody really realizes what they're doing when they're holding that point of attack and allowing those other guys to run around and be pretty.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Shout out to our guy, D, man. Shout out you tuning in, man. Shout out to our guy Scotty as well, man. Tune in. Appreciate you guys, man. Coach, let me ask you, because listen, the first Jackson game we saw T-Set in Baden. Against you guys, was it T-Set that was in there when you guys played Southern?
Yeah.
Have you watched enough film on Jalen Woods to give me your opinion on him?
Yeah, and they, again, it's all in what the attack is going to be, because if I'm going to assume, and I'm talking just football 101, I'm sure Jackson wants to make this thing as short and as sweet as possible with their stronghold, which is the run game. So, when you try to eliminate those guys, I think they have the people up front to cancel out. Now it's just, can Southern make them do something different, which takes that young man out of the game, which takes the co-defensive player out of the game? And do they have anybody else that can step up and take over the game, or, put their imprint on the game to where Jackson's got to do something different?
Yeah, the only thing I'm worried about with Jalen, and Coach, I don't think people understand, man. And
he's a young kid back there. Yeah, and again, I know I just talked Jackson, but we all know what Jackson does. We all know what the DC wants to do. Who's going to make who uncomfortable? And never seeing that, because it's going to be a madhouse, like you said. Let's just be honest. It's going to be a madhouse. Can he get comfortable in there enough to make enough plays to help out?
That's what I'm worried about, man, because I think the kid's played well for a true freshman, man. He was thrown into the fire, coach, where,
But it didn't
listen,
matter.
yeah, when it didn't matter, but then he started a few games, and I think the fact that he started the Bayou Classic and got the win, as bad as Grambling is, that was an environment that's going to kind of rival what he's going to see this weekend because the Bayou Classic's different.
What did he end with?
I think he was okay. I don't think he was great. Let me look it up real quick. I want to say he ended up with like 100 something passing yards, a pick, and a touchdown. It was an average performance, but they ran ball real well. He went for 188, a touchdown, and a pick.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to get in the mind of Coach the DC real quick. Can we touch him early, get him uncomfortable, and get him to moving when he really doesn't have to move? Because if you touch him early, and you know what I mean when I say touch him, now comes the third or fourth quarter when we've got to make that third and eighth throw. Now I'm seeing ghosts, I'm feeling ghosts, and I'm taking off when I really don't have to take off. So can they make him feel uncomfortable? We've seen two freshmen come out and ball, but I don't know if he's ready for that test, so to speak.
That's what I talked about on Perry's show, and I think someone put it in the chat. My goodness, I always talk about this, man. You got to speed his clock up, coach. Every quarterback has that internal clock. Yeah. And Jacobian is experienced enough now where it's tough. His clock's kind of set. Even if you try to speed him up, he's experienced enough to know to calm down in the pocket, settle in the pocket. But then sometimes you've seen Jacobian get uncomfortable. Alabama State, he was moving way too early, fumbling. They got him out of the pocket, made some plays. Can Southern do that? But with Jackson, if I'm Quinn, coach, I'm taking some chances early. I'm bringing
as soon as the clock starts.
Yeah, I'm talking about listen, and I got to give some credit to Jackson in terms of how they've built their linebacking core. Because, coach, I thought last year the weakest part of Jackson's defense was linebacker. Their linebackers were aggressive, but very undisciplined. They were not in the right spot a lot of times, so you can catch them off guard. But man, Reed Pulliam and Ashton Taylor and those guys have been a massive upgrade. If I'm Quinn, 7's coming downhill. I'm bringing Robert McDaniel downhill from that nickel safety spot. I'm Asayas. We're bringing pressure, and we're gonna see how you respond.
So let me ask you this, and I'll pose it to the chat as well. What is the weakest aspect of Southern's offensive game, if we're being honest?
The passing attack, easily.
So again, we're gonna pack that box, and we're gonna see if you can beat us.
Yeah.
If I'm the guy that's, calling the defensive signals, just for the simple fact that I know that's your weakest part. Now we're in the biggest game of the year. Can your weakest part make a big enough impact to keep you into the game into the fourth quarter? And I don't know if that's possible.
The interesting thing, too, is, coach, both of these teams have been really good against the pass. Southern's allowing 155 through the air per game, holding opponents to 6 yards per attempt. Jackson's only allowing 162 per game, allowing less than 6 yards per pass attempt. Both secondaries have been really good. I think with Southern, though, coach, because listen, we know what Jackson is. They have the names, right? They got Robert McDaniel, Asayas Guthrie, Kevrick Wiggins. Southern's more of like that no-name defense where they don't have the star names, but they play well together as a unit. And also, too, a thing to note, I believe it was Herman Brister, their starting safety. He'll be out the first half for the targeting call that he got in the Bayou Classic. So they'll be without their starting safety in the first 2 quarters. That is something to note because Herman Brister is a dog, man. I really like that kid's game.
And those guys are believing. I mean, let's be honest. They have been on a roll. They're hot right now. They're believing. They believe they can win any game that they can get to the fourth quarter, and that's half of it. But can they get it to the fourth quarter is the major question. I think they've got to answer early because if they fall behind 2 scores, it could get out of hand really quick.
That's what happened in the first game, right? You drop that pick, you drop that interception in the red zone. Jackson goes up. Your offense stalls. Coach, if you're Southern, the last thing you need is, and let's be honest, this happened in the 2022 championship too. They were down like 21-0 in like the first 5 minutes. It felt like
a deep hole and tried to come back, and it was just too deep of a hole to come back in.
Yeah.
You know, and let's just be honest. If if they fall like that again, with the way Jackson can run the ball this year as compared to then, this was going to get away, and they're just going to sit there and not safety cuts.
The other thing too is, Coach, I mean, I'm sure you saw this on film watching Southern. I don't think there's a stat to quantify it anywhere. I think they may have the most dropped interceptions in the country. I mean, Coach, they have 5 interceptions this year, but over 30-something pass breakups.
And the numbers say when you drop a pick within that series, you're going to give up points, whether it's field goal or touchdown. And and if you go back and you look, that's what's happened. And you can't afford to have that. When you're the underdog, you got to be able to take care of all those gifts that are handed to you. You got to be able to take those and make it happen.
Yeah. The last thing, and then I got a question for you. Do not kick to 0. That's it. Special teams, do not kick to 0.
I understand that, but also you can't put them on the short field either, if that makes sense.
Agreed.
At some point, you're going to have to test it. Now, you can go out like Coach Dungy did a couple of years ago and say, we're going to kick it to Devin Hester and we're going to show him. And then he takes it all the way back. Then the next time they'll kick it to him. But I think you can, early on, you've got to try to put them on the long field and make them show you that they can do that. This is it. There's no other game. This is it. I would hope that they put a lot of time into the kicking game this week leading up to it, because you know who that guy is. But putting them on the short field early, I don't think it lends well for you. And I'm speaking from experience. I live that. So at the end of the day, you want to make Jackson earn everything. And putting them on the 45, that's not making them earn it. Now, if he takes one back after that, you got to come up with something different.
Yeah. At least pin him to the sideline, right? Like, you got to pin him to the sideline. And now, don't do what Tennessee State did and just squib it down the middle of the field and give them a free run. Like, avoid that. I mean,
numbers. It's got to be numbers sideline. Okay, if it goes out of bounds, it's something different. If it stays, then we're in business.
Agreed. So I'm gonna give you 2 open-ended questions, one back to back. Southern wins if fill in the blank there.
Southern wins if Jackson comes out and has those turnovers like they had versus Grambling.
Agreed. I think the 2 things I would fill in that blank with: Southern's got to win the turnover battle by 2. They got to be +2 in the turnover box.
And they can't just get turnovers. They've got to convert those turnovers to points.
Yep. You have to, because I think that's what that Grambling game, Jackson still had a chance to win. The problem was, I mean, they scored 24 points off of turnovers in that game.
Of turnovers, and if you go back, the ones that they didn't score on the turnovers, they were short field.
Yep, exactly. And so, yeah, I'm with you. I think they got to win the turnover +2. And then the other thing I would put in, you got to run for 150. 150 is the minimum. If Southern ends the game with less than 150 rushing yards, Jackson wins walking away, in my opinion. That's the 2. Turnovers +2, rushing for 150. Now, Coach, Jackson wins if
that guy back there runs for, I'm going to say if he runs for over 125, they win it. If he runs for over 150, they win it easily.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think really and truly, Coach, and I don't want this to come off as I'm taking a shot at Southern. So I'm going to try to say it the nicest way I can. I think Jackson wins if they just play Jackson State football.
Yeah, I agree.
They've just been that good this year. And I know people, and I'm not saying that because I do understand there's been people out there, Coach, who have been saying Southern has 0 chance. I'm not going that far, but it's very obvious to anybody who's turned on the film that Jackson right now has been the best team in the SWAC. And
they're hot. The 2 hottest teams are playing right now, no doubt.
Yeah. And so I just think for Jackson, you do what you've done to get here. So the two things I put in that blank, coach, get after the quarterback and run the football. That's it.
That's it. Do what you do. Don't overthink it. Um, and play your brand of ball early. And again, the team that is able to impose their will wins this game. And for the most part, throughout the season, JSU has shown that ability. But Southern's also, how many overtime games they've won? 4. So
Yeah.
you know if they've got that rabbit's foot with them, they've got a chance.
Yeah. Also, too, this is a good point. Southern's got to control the clock.
Oh yeah, ain't no tempo. You want to keep those fellas on the side.
Yeah. Oh, if Jackson wins the time of possession, things have gotten out of hand, I think.
Early, yes.
That just me personally. I will say this, coach. I want to take a quick look, and then we'll wrap this thing up. And this is by far the best time we've made on a show probably ever here at under 30 minutes already. How do you think? And we've already kind of well, real quick before we get to this, predictions, coach. Man, who wins the SWAC championship this weekend?
As much as it pains me, the East captures another championship. I just think they're the hottest team. They're clicking on all cylinders, all phases, offensively, defensively, special teams, and they've found a way to cancel out the mistakes. So it pains me to say that, but I think the East wins another championship.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got Jackson.
It pains me. It pains me.
Hang on,
it
real
pains
quick.
me, Blue.
Let me hang on. Let me find the spread real quick for this one, coach. Let me see what we got here. Okay, so right now, coach, I want you. It's all season, so you can't get in no trouble. All season's over. Jackson is a 14.5 point favorite right now, according to BetMGM.
Ain't enough.
You taking that?
Yeah, I'm taking that.
Woo, okay. I like it. Now I'm with you. I'll say this. I think Southern can keep it close early because I don't know if they're going to get off to as bad of a start as they did. But man, I think Jackson's going to wear on them. And I really do. I just think, coach, in the second half, I think Jackson pulls away in this one, man. I really do.
So let me ask you this. If it gets down to the last 5 minutes and we're in a tight ball game, who's shown you up to this point that they can handle that? Who can salt away 5 minutes to secure a win?
Okay, I get your point, and I'll concede that because I just don't think Jackson's had to play that type of game this year. I'm trying to because you look at Jackson, okay, what were their two closest games really and truly? Because I don't count Alabama A&M, right? They were beating Alabama A&M by like 30 at halftime, and Connell Manor is the king of just scoring unnecessary points at the end of the game for no reason. The two closest games they had FAMU, and let's be honest, coach,
going got away at the end.
Yeah, which to be fair, they came alive in the last 5 minutes of that game, especially defensively. And then the other close game they played, they were able to get it done on the road against Bama State. But I do concede this, like if you're asking me who is most tested in close games where it comes down to one possession, Southern's by far the more tested team because they've had those overtime games. They've had those thrillers. Jackson hasn't really been in that type of game. But, coach, I will say just skill-wise, if Jackson has the ball with 5 minutes left and it comes down to just running the clock out, I don't think that's a position Southern wants to be in, especially if Jackson's running the ball at that point because, coach, you know what's going to happen. It's going to be they're going to call power with Irv Mulligan to the right, power with Irv Mulligan to the left, and then Jacoby and Morgan's going to pull it on like a read option and run it off tackle and get the first down. And guess what, coach? You know what TC's going to do? He's going to flip that page back over, He's going to call
Start
5
all
to the
over
right,
again.
5 to the left, Jacoby and Morgan QB sneak for first down. Then he's going to turn the page back over, and it's going to be 5 to the right, 5 to the left, and another. That's going to be it. They're just going to run it right down their throat, in my opinion. Like that's what they've done to everybody all year, other than Bama State.
So let me ask you this, and we're speaking in the world of hypotheticals. If Southern still has that glass slipper on, and at the end of 4 quarters they are victorious,
Yep.
do we amend the coach of the year and we go coach of the year?
No, you can't. It's already given.
I'm saying, do we petition? Is there another way?
I will say this, okay, and this I think TC's earned it, right? Because I mean TC's had a hell of a year,
Oh my God.
but
I'm with it.
I do think it's weird. I think the SWAC's the only conference that does this, that gives out the awards before the championship game. That is a little weird, right? Because let's just say, I mean, because like you said, like let's say Southern comes in and wins by like 14 on the road. It looks kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
That the first year head coach that won a conference championship isn't the coach of the year. I get your point, but I think when it was voted on, you can't change it now, but when it was voted on, I think TC deserved it over Graves right now. Just me personally.
I'm with you. I'm just, throwing it out there, but I think at that point, the Jags probably make their own trophy and give it to him, that kind of thing. But
listen, I think if you ask Graves, right? I think if you ask Graves, and let's just say you flip it, right? Let's say Graves won and TC didn't. I think TC and Graves would both say they would rather have that trophy on the stage this Saturday than the coach of the year.
I know that.
I would rather be in the t-shirts with the new hats with the stickers on them, holding up the trophy. Man, you can have the coach of the year, man. I don't care about that. I'll take the trophy at the 50.
Ain't no doubt. I played in several of those championship games, and not one of those games where we won it that we care about who was on first team, who was on second team, who was the coach of the year. We immediately searched hats and where are the people from the ring company. We need to talk to them. That'll be the most important thing. But I just want to throw that out there to see what your thoughts were.
This is what, if I'm Jackson, I'm hoping this game plays out exactly like the first one. You don't want to know why, Coach? It'd be real nice if I could pull my starters in the second half. That way they get a nice rest before next week.
Oh, and we're ready to book that thing and head to Atlanta. Rather than a close game. That way I can pull everybody. I ain't got to worry about no last minute ankle injuries, soft tissue, none of that stuff. And we already have the hats out and we're just kicking it.
That's what I'm saying. Like that would be the best case for whoever wins this game, is to be able to kind of coast in that second half. Because I think, and I know it. Listen, I don't want to get to the debate, so I'm just going to dead it right after I say this. The worst thing you want to see is this team to go into like Georgia Tech mode and be like 8 overtimes, and you got to turn around and get to Atlanta on like Tuesday.
Hey.
that would be worst case.
And if you're peeking ahead, that is a real possibility. So, again, I think this week we'll see if Coach Taylor's really earned that coach of the year, because you're going to have to keep you have to keep those guys focused and not peeking ahead because of what happened that first game.
I love Paris. As she said, we rebuke that. No overtimes this weekend. No overtimes. Coach, let me ask you real quick, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. When you look at South Carolina State, how do you think these two teams match up with Chinnis Berry and those Bulldogs up in Orangeburg?
Going back, and the coach and me, I was able to go back yesterday while I was kind of dealing with my situation, kind of YouTube through some games from Coach Berry's team. The thing that'll be interesting, if it is the Jackson matchup, is no one really pressured them. And you can go back and look for yourself. No one really pressured them. No one was really up in your face. So for them in the Jackson matchup, it will be interesting to see how his team offensively handles that. And then defensively, it will be interesting to see how Jackson handles the on-again, off-again way that South Carolina State plays defense. They heat you up, and then they'll drop 8 and wait on you to make a mistake. And then 2 series later, they're back in your grill. So it'd be interesting to see how they kind of handle that. The Southern aspect would be interesting to see how Southern defensively will be able to handle the passing from South Carolina State because we know they want to stretch the field, but then they also want to run the ball. But I think Coach Tennis is a coach that's going to be, on the opportunist side to where, okay, you want to put eight in the box. I feel good enough about my quarterback and my receivers to where we can throw it. Oh, you want to play coverage? Hey, we can run it as well. So the matchup that I would love to see I would love to see how South Carolina State would handle the pressure. But, just kind of whatever's going to be best for the conference going in for us to have the opportunity to try to bring that back to the conference.
I do want to hesitate and say this. Okay. Based on everything I've watched now, I would love to see a Jackson South Carolina State matchup in the Celebration Bowl. But I'm not going to say I wouldn't be excited for Southern South Carolina State because of this, Coach. Right now, I wouldn't, based on what I've seen. But if Southern finds a way to beat Jackson, that changes my whole perspective of how good Southern is, right? That would change how I felt about it. So I'm not going to go that far, but I will say this. I really do think the interesting matchup would be one, and this is no shot at anybody in the SWAC, and I want to make sure I say this very clear because there are talented players in the SWAC. I don't think they've seen a quarterback this year at this level that is as good as Eric Phoenix. I would pick Eric Phoenix over Daniel Richardson right now, just me personally.
The kid's, again, like I said, going back and watching the film, I mean, all he's done after week after week after week is improved. And, from the first time we saw him versus FAMU, he's gotten better. Week 2, he's gotten better. And he's been able to eliminate the mistakes. And he's been really good at taking what you give him. But then he's got some guys on the outside that go get him. And then, the thing with the South Carolina State that kind of keeps me tied to them and watching them is they have 2 kids from the 863 on that coaching staff. Their defensive coordinator, I coached him in high school. Michael Styles, related to him. So, those guys, man, I'm pulling for them. I'm happy for them. They're their first year. It would have been a dream come true to face those guys. But, at the end of the day, hats off to Coach Berry and his staff because he said it right. On this show, I said they were a year away, maybe. He's done nothing but prove us wrong.
I'm with you. And I'll say this, man, you're a wide receiver guy. Woo. If South Carolina State was in the SWAC, I don't know if anyone has a better wide receiving core than South Carolina State. With Caden High, with Brown Smith, with Carter, with the tight end. They got dudes. Yeah, they got dudes on the outside. And also, too, the reason I would like that Jackson matchup, Coach, I think Jackson and South Carolina State probably have the 2 best defensive lines in HBCU football. In terms of a unit, I think there's might be better individual players. Like you look at Givens and Bailey, and you could throw a few other names. But when you look at Ashad Hall, you look at Jalen Broughton, you look at some of those guys. They've ranked top 10 nationally in sacks. They all can get upfield and get after the quarterback. So I think just stylistically, and again, I'd always want to preface it because people get upset, Coach, because they think it's a shot at their team. It's just for me as a football fan. X's and O's and matchup wise, I think Jackson, South Carolina State almost kind of plays like a strength versus strength matchup. And to me, that makes for a better game. Just me personally.
Oh, no doubt. And they have the thing that I like about South Carolina State is that they have a unit of those guys. It's not just the one guy. And that's the main thing that I really like what they've done with their offense. Like I said, going back and watching them. They have a unit. They have a unit of guys. And, Phoenix is one of those guys that can get out of trouble. Is he going to take it 80? Probably not, but he's going to get you enough. He's smart. Get out of bounds, get down. He does what he does. But, for the most part, I think that would be a very, very interesting matchup to see them guys. Coach Berry, ex-SWAC guy, coming back first for the SWAC team. I'd love to see it.
It would be kind of cool, though, right? I mean, and I don't know if this match was going to happen. I predicted for it not to. Can you imagine Chinnis Berry versus Southern in the SWAC championship with their history? What a storyline, right? A first year, because Graves was Graves on that. I don't know if Graves was on the staff before Barry left. Graves has been
I don't
there a
think so.
long time, though.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think Graves was he was over at Grambling during that time.
so they played each other though. They played each other
Yes.
though, so that'd be even. And I'm with KC here. This is the last thing, and we're gonna wrap this thing up. He does have a good point. Southern has nothing to lose. If you're Graves walking in that locker room, you just go into the locker room and say, "Hey, man, just play the clips from this week, from all the different shows, all the predictions. Not a single person outside of Baton Rouge picked y'all to win."
Hey, and then I'll double back on that. I think last year's West Winners had Scotty. They may have had you clipped up in the video.
Who
How that
did?
worked out? Last year's West Winners before they went to play for the championship. How did that hype video work out?
Yeah, that's fair. Look, Coach, I'll say this. I'm like, I think my teams are 0 for 1 where I'm in the video because I was in the video for Tennessee State before Eastern Washington. And because I was the only person to pick them, so they clipped me, and I was like the narrator of the video. They lost, so RIP that one. So I don't know if people want to clip me.
It has nothing to do with you, man. We're not gonna put that on. It has nothing to do with you.
Man, speaking of that, Coach, I'm still upset. I'm still sad about my Tigers last week, man. I was pushing. Gosh, what a game! What a game! But man, guys, we appreciate y'all tuning in, man. We wanted to cut this off. I'm about to get in the car and head to Jackson as we wrap this up. Man, I got a few more things to pack, and I'm out of here on the road. So, man, if y'all see me tomorrow, say what's up. I'm gonna go get some good food, man. Shout out to TD, Ken, and those guys, man, for hooking me up. And also, too, man, Southern's tailgates are on point, man. So I'm gonna have to run by some Southern tailgates. That seafood, Coach, is different. When they come from Baton Rouge, it's different. Yeah, it's different up there. But guys, man, hit the like button, subscribe, check out the website, all that good stuff. Go ahead, man.
You're not gonna talk about the good news?
What's up?
We heading back to the FCS National Championship.
That's right.
Game.
I forgot about that. We did get approved. We're gonna have a graphic, but Coach has a funny graphic. I've been working on it, man. So me, Coach, Timothy, all will be headed back to Frisco for the FCS National Championship. Also, Coach, today got our Celebration Bowl credentials too, man. So we headed to Atlanta next week.
Let's go.
Yeah. Me, you, and our guy G's coming with us, man. Our guy Gerald Huggins, he's approved too, so he'll be kicking it with us at the Celebration Bowl, man. So we're gonna be busy. We got Celebration Bowl next week, semifinals the week after for me. Then we got the FCS National Championship. So we're gonna be real busy, man. But listen, me and Coach will be back next week. We're gonna recap SWAC Championship, obviously preview the Celebration Bowl. So man, stay tuned, subscribe, all that good stuff, man. But until next time, guys, we out for right now.